Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Please join us for Jai Radha Madhav prayers. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari, Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari, Yashodanandana Brajana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Brajana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari, Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari, Yashodanandana Brajana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Brajana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. हरे कृष्णा डियर डिवोटीज, आप सबका स्वागत है, आप सबका अभिनंदन है। Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
So let me welcome some of the devotees who have joined us. Thank you for joining us. I see Amit ji, Prabodh ji, Hare Krishna, आप सबका स्वागत है. संजय घोष, संजीत बिस्वास, देवंग भट्ट, करुणा सिंधु प्रभु, हरे कृष्णा, आप सबका स्वागत है इस श्रीमद् भागवतम क्लास में. प्लीज जॉइन अस फॉर मंगलाचरण प्रेयर्स. ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय. ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय. ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय. नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्. श्रवतां स्वकथा कृष्ण पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तनः. हृदयन्तस्थो ह्यभद्राणि विधुनोति सुहसतां. नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया. भगवतेरुत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. We'll continue to study from Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto. Today we'll be covering chapter 9. So there are some amazing lessons we get from this chapter. So here we are continuing the pastime of Dhruva Mahārāja. So in the previous class we covered that Dhruva Mahārāja left home to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And here Dhruva Mahārāja, the title of the chapter is Srimad Bhagavatam 4th canto chapter 9. Dhruva Mahārāja returns home after having satisfied the Supreme Personality of Godhead, of course. So please join us in the recitation of the first verse. Hare Krishna Devi, could you please share the link? Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 9, Verse 1. Maitreya uvacha ta evamutsana bhayavrukrame kritva vanamaha prayustivishtapam सहस्राशीषापि ततो गरुत्मता मधुर्वनं भृत्य dirikshaya gataha. Translation by His Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The great sage Maitreya told Vidur, when the demigods were thus assured by the personality of Godhead, they were freed from all fears, and after offering their obeisances, they returned to their heavenly planets. Then the Lord, who is non-different from the Sahasrashisha incarnation, got on the back of Garuna, who carried him to the Madhuvan forest to see his servant Dhruva. Hare Krishna. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada refers that the Sahasrashisha incarnation refers to Garbhodakshai Vishnu, who is the initial cause in this material world, and from him further expansion is Shirodakshai Vishnu. Hare Krishna. Please join us for Guru Pranati. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Mukham karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripa tadaham vande Shri Gurum Deenataranam. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So here Maitreya Muni is referring to Lord who satisfied the demigods. So again, how did this situation even come? Where the demigods, they were afraid because the whole universe was choked up. And this is because of who? As we'll discover, none other than Dhruva Mahārāja. So there are some important lessons where Devashi Narad, before addressing Dhruva Mahārāja, his concern, actually glorified that the Kshatriyas are so powerful that they, even the harsh words, they take it to their hearts. Even a small child, 5-year-old Dhruva Mahārāja, when his stepmother Suruchi, chastised him, very strongly, in strong words, she said that he has to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead so that he can take birth from her womb. Only then he can sit on his father's lap. Uttanpan is the father. Uttanpan is the father of Dhruva Mahārāja. And even though Dhruva Mahārāja is born of Uttanpan and his other wife, Suniti, who is actually his first wife, but the younger, wife, Suruchi, is much more attractive. So, Uttanpan, he is administering the whole universe on behalf of Swayambhuva Manu, right? His father. And Swayambhuva Manu's father is Lord Brahma. So these are great heavenly personalities. And here, Dhruva Mahārāja, being a Kshatriya, was hurt by the harsh words of Suruchi. When he went to his mother Suniti, not finding any solution, said, actually your stepmother is correct. But she gave two very important instructions. First is, because Kshatriyas live for name, fame and glories, she did not want Dhruva to wish for any inauspiciousness for others. And she actually reveals a fact. She says that those who wish inauspicious things for others, they burn in that fire of inauspiciousness themselves. So what goes around comes around. That's another way of saying the same, teaching. Second lesson she gives Dhruva Mahārāja is that he should never be envious of his brother Uttam. Because Dhruva Mahārāja, when he is chastised that he will not be able to get onto the throne because he's trying to get onto the lap of his father, then the another thought is he may become envious of his brother Uttam, who would get onto the throne because of his father being henpecked husband and being attracted to Suruchi, his stepmother. So in this particular case, his mother Suniti is saying that we should never wish anything inauspicious for others, and we should never be envious of others. And Srila Narottam Das Thakur, he says that all other anarthas can be dovetailed, and used somehow in devotional service to direct them towards the people who are demoniac. But envy is one quality that can never be used in devotional service, and in saving the devotees or suppressing the demonic personalities or demonic crowd mindset. So here with this lesson, she actually tells that yes, your stepmother is correct. So Dhruva Mahārāja, he was going to the jungle asking different animals, very Supreme Personality of Godhead, because his mother told him that's where the rishis live. So in jungle, one is in the mode of goodness, and the cities are in the mode of passion, Rajoguna. And then we see brothels and wine houses, clubs, they are in the mode of ignorance. So we definitely don't want to be associated with people in the mode of ignorance or in mode of passion. Rather, at least try to rise to the mode of goodness. Because who is the, of the good avatars? It is Lord Vishnu. He is the personification of the mode of goodness. But he is Shuddha Sattva. He is maintainer, and that maintenance is in the mode of goodness. So we see that of all the activities, creation, maintenance and annihilation, maintenance takes maximum energy, maximum patience, maximum tolerance, maximum humility. So all the great qualities one develops when they are engaging in maintenance without getting too greedy. Because in creative impetus there is greed, there is name, fame and glories, the Kshatriya propensities, they come into being. And of course, in the mode of ignorance, good avatar is Lord Shiva. His activities are the activities of mode of ignorance, but he is never in mode of ignorance. He is always meditating on Lord Sankarshan, so he is also transcendentally situated. Yet his activities are that of annihilation, which is in the mode of ignorance. The anger he uses in devotional service to satisfy and carry out his duties as per the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Those activities are still devotional service, but those activities refer to mode of ignorance. So that's why people sometimes, they look at Bholenath, he says, oh, he's such a simple person, so easily pacified and so easily, satisfied. And at the same time, he becomes angry also very quickly. So that's why his another name is Ashutosh, Hare Krishna. And so, here, Dhruva Mahārāja, he is in Kshatriya spirit. So he desires to have what? He doesn't desire to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead so that he may leave his body and, take birth as his stepmother had suggested him. He actually desired at that moment to get a greater kingdom than his great-grandfather. because Suniti, his mother, Dhruva Mahārāja's mother, gave him 3 examples. And then the 4th example, of course, that of devotees. The first example she gives is of Lord Brahma, who when he took birth and could not understand what's the purpose of life, he heard the word tapa, austerity. So he meditated and performed great austerities. And so he was endowed with this creative impetus. And then Swayambhuva Manu, he performed lots of sacrifices and gave a lot of charity. So by doing that, he became the administrator of this universe. And from Manu comes Manushya or Manav. So the living entities, we are actually descendants of Manu. And for us, the guiding principles are Manu Samhita. Yet at the same time, as Srila Prabhupada and Acharyas revealed, we should look at time, place and circumstances. Sometimes people pick up Manu Samhita and just from the literary perspective, they say, oh, if somebody has committed, if somebody has committed murder, that he should be given life sentence. But too many people in the past have been known, innocent people have been given life sentence based on this rule. So we have realized that actually it is not benefit to the society because our judicial system is faulty. So the law is not faulty, our judicial system is faulty. Vedas are not faulty. So again, Vedas reveal the absolute truth to us, and yet at the same time also covers all other kind of systems, covers the karma kanda, jnana kanda, and so many other areas. So it's like having a supermarket. And if you go to a supermarket, right, in a mall, you won't see every shop will be that of diamond, right, or gold. There will only be 1 or 2 shops. So it's similarly in Vedas, 99% of the Vedas deals with the general karma kanda principles. Only that, 1%, even less than 1% refers to the devotional service, because it is the diamond store, and only few people have the guts to get into the diamond store who are looking for real jewel, real value in life. So again, devotees are those kind of seekers. They want the topmost, destination and attain the supreme abode, right? To satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they want to engage in his devotional service, which takes an effort because it's not about taking. Otherwise, dharma, arth, kam, moksha, we talked about these 4 principles last time as well. People in this material world, when they are bewildered, they actually use dharma, religiosity, not to satisfy their demigods, but to ask their Ishtadevs, their worshipable deities, to satisfy their needs, right? Just like Dhruva Mahārāja, he is having this feeling that he wants a kingdom greater than his great-grandfather. Now, the third example Suniti gives is, and actually dharma and earth. Earth is economic development. So all activities people currently do, they are also to get wealth so that they can actually engage in the third activity, which is calm, sense enjoyment, sense gratification. So this is where today we see, colleges, their education is not oriented towards, enlightening ourselves to attain the supreme abode, but rather to sustain ourselves, to engage in sense gratification. So dharma and earth, when dovetailed in karma, in sense gratification, then of course no one is interested in liberation. And that's what happens, in this material world, which causes us to get more deeper. It's like a quicksand, daldal, right? So we are caught in that, and we are caught in the cycle of birth and death. So as a Ferris wheel, we keep going up and down, sometimes to the higher heavenly planets, sometimes to the hellish planets. So this cycle is going on. And this desire to enjoy the senses never ends. So this vicious cycle can only be, removed by what? If you know the answer, please share in the comments. What is the solution? How can one get out of the cycle of birth and death? There is a beautiful verse that appears in the Shastras. Brahmad bhavite kaune bhagavan jiva guru krishna prasade paya bhakti lata bija. Brahmad bhavite kaune bhagavan jiva. So only a fortunate soul who's actually, all the souls are wandering in this Brahman, right? Like a Ferris wheel example. जो हवाई झूला जिसे कहते हैं ना. So that way, sometimes people are going to heavenly planets, then coming to the earthly planets, going down to hellish planets, coming back to the earthly planets. So, but one fortunate soul, or one who's lucky, is able to get Guru Krishna Prasadapaya. By the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna, he gets, Lord Krishna is in our heart as Chaitya Guru. So he gets the mercy of a bona fide spiritual master. A bona fide spiritual master appears in one of the four paramparas. So there are four disciplic successions. They are there. Rudra Sampradaya coming from Lord Shiva. Shri Sampradaya coming from Goddess Lakshmi. Brahma Sampradaya coming from Lord Brahma. And Kumar Sampradaya coming from the four Kumaras, Sanak, Sanatan, Sanandana and Sanat Kumar. So here we understand that yes, we have to take shelter of our spiritual master, and the spiritual master engages us in bhajana kriya, devotional service, which simply starts with the chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So now here, Dhruva Mahārāja, when he, by the mercy of the Lord, is able to have the darshan of Devashi Narad. Devashi Narad, he hears about Dhruva Mahārāja and immediately goes there and he glorifies the Kshatriyas. They are so much, when they are peers, they take on a vow which is so difficult. So he's glorifying Kshatriyas who are taking to devotional service when they are hurt by others' harsh words. I'm giving the example of this 5-year-old boy, Dhruva Mahārāja. He is telling Dhruva Mahārāja, you're a 5-year-old boy. You don't have to take this very seriously. You go back home. The kids, they play and they engage in all kind of, frivolities. This is not your concern but Dhruva Mahārāja, he saying that I am impudent. I'm sorry. I am not able to take your message because they are not entering my heart. If you can help me in my mission. And Devashi Narad then tests him by saying, actually, devotional service is very difficult to perform. Many people have tried it in the past and it takes many, many births. And of course, in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna reveals this. He says, Bahunam janmanam ante jnanvam mam prapadyate vasudeva sarvamiti sa mahatma sudurlabha. So Bahunam janmanam ante. Even the Jnana Yogis, the impersonalists, they take many, many births. And then finally they come to this platform of saying Vasudeva Sarvamati, that Lord Vasudeva, he is all in all, he is the supreme cause of all causes. So again, Ishvara Paramaha Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. So he is the cause of all causes. Who? Ishvara Paramaha Krishna. So who is the supreme Ishvara? Lord Shri Krishna. And what is his form? His form is of eternity, full of knowledge and transcendental bliss. And there is no one older than him. Adir, he is the oldest. Govinda, and he gives pleasure to the senses, pleasure to the cows. Govinda means, go also refers to the senses or the cows. And the one who gives pleasure to the senses and to the cows, the name is Govind. And he is the Sarvakaran Karam. He is the cause of all causes. So the ultimate cause, before anything else, is Lord Shri Krishna. But then, sometimes people misuse this verse by saying that whatever we are doing bad is actually he is the cause. Yes, he is the cause of us, but if we do some stupid action, we are still responsible for those actions, right? We are still accountable. So we have to suffer the reactions of those actions. And so that's also coming from him only. So he has a perfect arrangement. People may try to manipulate whatever way they feel like, but when Lord has an arrangement focused on, managing the affairs of this material universe as well as of spiritual universe. So he's the proprietor, he's the beneficiary of all yajnas, and he's the supreme proprietor of all the spiritual and material universes. And so here Dhruva Mahārāja is getting this instruction, but they are not, touching his heart yet. And Devashi Narad then says that actually, why don't you go back now when you will grow up? That way you will have sufficient intelligence and take to devotional service. Dhruva Mahārāja at that time also rejects that. So now Dhruva Mahārāja, he receives the mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this mantra is the invocation mantra of Srimad Bhagavatam. And so when, Vyasadevji, he starts Srimad Bhagavatam, the very first verse, he starts with this. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And then comes Janmadiyasya yato anvayaditrashateshva bhigya swarat tene brahma hidayadi kavaye muyanti yad surya Tejo vari mridam yatha vinimayo trisargo amrisha dhamna svena sada nirastakukam satyam param dhimahi. So this is Lord, Srila Vyasadeva, he's glorifying the Lord in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam. And actually the whole essence of Srimad Bhagavatam is this particular verse. In this prayer that, Vyasadeva. So your homework would be, please go and understand the purport, read the purport, because Srila Prabhupada, when he started writing Srimad Bhagavatam, he said he may not have enough time to put the essence of all Srimad Bhagavatam. He was not sure that he can finish all of Srimad Bhagavatam. So he placed the whole essence in the first canto. But then he was not sure if the first canto is enough. So he placed the essence in the first chapter of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And then further he meditated on it and he placed the essence in the purport of the first verse, of the first chapter of first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So again, the purport is very powerful. So please read it on your own time and understand that what is this wonderful prayer. And there is only one person who is Swarat, who is completely independent. Sometimes Lord Brahma is also referred to as Swarat, independent, but then we living entities have minute independence, and Lord Brahma is one of the living entities, jivas. So we have vibhinnamshas. There are two types of expansions, swamshas and vibhinnamshas. Swamshas expansions are Vishnu Tattvas. They are the expansions from, Lord Krishna and his plenary portions and portion of his plenary portions. And so they are in the same category as Lord Shri Krishna. Just like Srila Prabhupada gives the example, and Acharyas reveal that if there are different kind of candles, but there is only one original candle that's lighted, and this lighted candle can light other candles. So now they have the same potency as the original candle, but yes, there is only one original candle, Lord Shri Krishna. And even the Vishnu, that sometimes people think that Krishna is an incarnation of Vishnu, then even that is incorrect, because actually Vishnu is a plenary portion of a portion of Lord Shri Krishna. So again, further we see as how from Lord Krishna comes Balaram, from Balaram's comes Chaturvyu, which is Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna and Aniruddha. And then from Pradyumna comes, further expansions. Actually from Vasudev comes the Purusharthas. And from there, Garbhodakshai Vishnu, from here comes Shirodakshai Vishnu. And here in this particular chapter, we'll be looking at Garbhodakshai Vishnu and Shirodakshai Vishnu's, and it is Shirodakshai Vishnu who is the super soul in our heart, Paramatma feature, who goes, in this particular case, to Dhruva Mahārāja. But why did he have to go to Dhruva Mahārāja? Because Dhruva Mahārāja, he took the instructions to his heart that yes, he has to perform devotional service, and this was the age of Satya Yuga. So in that time, people could perform austerities because their lifespan was 100,000 years. So he, in the very first month, Dhruva Mahārāja came to the level that he only ate fruits and berries on every third day. So his bodily needs are reducing because he is engaged in his devotional service, so firm, so fixed, so determined to achieve a kingdom greater than his great-grandfather, Lord Brahma. And so in the second month, he further advanced that only every 6 months, he had to eat. And what did he eat? He took dry grass and leaves. But his main focus continued to be in devotional service. He continued his devotional service. And in the third month, he came to the level that he didn't have to take anything solid. He drank water only every 9 days. So again, his bodily needs are further reducing, and he is completely entering trance, samadhi, right? And he is engaged in worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead with selected verses taught to him by Devashi Narad. In the fourth month, he completely became master of his breathing exercise. So even inhaling the air that we actually have to do so many times, even every minute, he inhaled air only once every 12th day. And so he was fixed in his position. He was completely meditating on the lotus of his heart. He was seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Paramatma feature, the four-arm form, as Devashi Narad had described. And the fifth month, Maharaj Dhruv, the son of the king Uttanpad, he controlled his breathing so perfectly that he was standing only on one leg, just like a column. And without motion, he was fully meditating on Parabrahman. And he controlled his senses and objects in such a way that he had no diversion anymore. So again, in this state, he came to the level where he was able, did not need to, even breathe. So all his, body, the 9 holes of the body, we have 2 holes for the eyes, 2 for the ears, 2 for the nose, so that's 6, and then we have mouth, anus, and genitals. So again, the 9 holes of the body, they were all completely covered up, and he became equal in heaviness with Lord Vishnu, right? And so when he did that, all of a sudden, not just his body was choked up, the whole universe was choked up. And the demigods, they became afraid and they approached the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that time, Supreme Personality of Godhead said, don't worry, I know this is my devotee, my servant Dhruva. You return to your home and I'll be able to take care of this properly. So at that time, hearing this from the lost sheep, they returned back home. Now, as soon as Lord, he got onto Garun, he came to Madhuvan in front of Dhruva Mahārāja. What happened was Dhruva Mahārāja was meditating on the super soul in his heart, right? And suddenly the super soul in the heart disappeared. So Dhruva Mahārāja became very perturbed. All of a sudden, means again, you have the greatest treasure you are meditating on, and all of a sudden the treasure is gone. So he became perturbed. But because of this disturbance, when he opened his eyes, what does he see? That the same Lord he was seeing in his heart is standing right in front of him. And he wanted to speak something, but he couldn't speak, so he immediately fell flat on the ground. That's also called Dandvat, or we also call it Sashtang Pranam. So Dhruva Mahārāja, he wanted to sing prayers to the lost sheep. He was as if, when he was looking at the lost sheep, all his limbs became individually enlivened. And just a रोंगटे खड़े हो जाते हैं, रोम में हर्ष होता है, right? That's how he was feeling. And the tears, these are cold tears because of happiness, they were flowing from his eyes, and he was drinking the lost sheep with his eyes. He was embracing his lotus feet with his arms. So again, in this way, he wanted to actually sing prayers. But since he was just a 5-year-old child, he did not have the knowledge, right? He only had the knowledge that Devashi Narad gave him. He did not have the knowledge how to glorify the Lord. So seeing his desire to glorify, to sing prayers, Lord, he touches his conch at the forehead of Dhruva Mahārāja. As soon as the conch touches the forehead of Dhruva Mahārāja, all his ignorance is driven away. Ananyāśyantayantumam ye jana paryupasate. Again, Lord Krishna means, again, it is revealed in the Shastras that those who are constantly engaged in his devotional service, Tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshema vahamyaham. Lord says that he preserves what they have and he provides what they lack. So here, Dhruva Mahārāja did not have enough intelligence or the knowledge of how to glorify the Lord, who is also known as Uttam Shloka, who is glorified with selected verses. So Lord gave him that knowledge. Now sometimes people say, how could it be? Right? There are so many Gyanis, they are studying Vedas from decades. And Dhruva Mahārāja, for 5-year-old, just with the touch of a conch, how could he get all this knowledge? Then we have to understand, go back to the Chaturshloki Gita, 10th chapter in Bhagavad Gita. We have 8, 9, 10, 11, and the 11th verse reveals this secret. Tesham evanukampatam aham ajnanajam tamaha nashami atma bhavasto jnanadipena bhasvata. Tesham evanukampatam. Anukampa. So Bhagwan ki anukampa jis pe hoti hai. When Lord is pleased and he has this causeless mercy on any living entity, right? To that living entity, his devotee. Aham ajnanajam tamaha. So he can drive away all the ignorance with the knowledge. Nashami atma bhavasto jnana dipena bhasvata. So he is situated in our heart as the super soul, and with the light of knowledge, he can drive away all the ignorance. So again, this is where it is very nicely revealed that Lord, he can instantly give his mercy. That's why his mercy is also known as causeless mercy. And Dhruva Mahārāja, he actually, as soon as he got the knowledge, he was lamenting, and he is first in this mood of repentance. He's saying, my dear Lord, I was looking for pieces of glasses while I have the diamonds available, right, to engage in devotional service. So again, through Maharaj is revealing it. And this effect is in Chatushloki Bhagavatam. So in the second canto, right, we hear the Chatushloki Bhagavatam, the first verse is where Dhruva Mahārāja condition is revealed. Aham evasam evagre nanedya sadasat param paschadaham yadaitacha yo avashesheta swasamyaham. Where Lord Vishnu, when he appeared to Lord Brahma, he said that it is I, the personality of Godhead, who was existing before the creation, when there was nothing but myself, nor was there the material nature the cause of this creation. And that what you see currently, so in the present moment, anything that we see currently is also the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And after annihilation, after everything is destroyed, who remains? The Supreme Personality of Godhead. So when somebody thinks that these things, the various objects are for our sense enjoyment, that is Maya, right? Everything in reality is energy of the Lord, and He is the energetic. So when we look from that perspective, we realize such an amazing realization that Dhruva Mahārāja has. So sometimes people have this confusion. Sometimes they think that Dhruva Mahārāja was engaging, and in 6 months he was able to attain something that the other yogis would take, Gyan yogi in this case, could take many, many births. So maybe he had love of Godhead, not till the point the conch touched his forehead. Till that point, he was actually Artharthi. Lord Krishna reveals in Bhagavad Gita, right? Chaturvida bhajante mam jana sukritino arjuna artho jigyasu arthati jnanischa bharata shabha. So Bhagavan Krishna, he is revealing in Bhagavad Gita that Chaturvida bhajante mam. There are 4 kind of people who come to him. What kind of? Jana sukritino arjuna. These people are sukriti. Sukriti means pious people. So they may not be devotees yet, but they are pious. They believe in doing good deeds. They believe in doing good actions. They want to live a good life, a just life. So here, Artho, one who is distressed, Jigyasu, one who is inquisitive, who wants to know what is what, and curious about it. Artharthi, the one who is seeking wealth, fortune. Dhruva Mahārāja is in this category, Artharthi. And Jnani, one who is seeking knowledge. So Dhruva Mahārāja did not take to devotional service because he was seeking knowledge. He took to devotional service following the instruction of Devashi Narad, his spiritual master, because he wanted a kingdom higher than his great-grandfather. Such were his aspirations. So here, as Dhruva Mahārāja, he is able to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead who is present in front of him. As soon as the Lordship, he touches his conch at the forehead of Dhruva Mahārāja, all his ignorance is driven away. And so he is in this mood of repentance. He comes to this mood of repentance. He is saying, that I was looking for pieces of glass, and he is feeling ashamed for having such a desire, such a lowly desire. He says, my dear Lord, I was looking for these material benedictions which are even available to people who are in hellish conditions. Right? And so he is now understanding what is the purpose of this life. And he is revealing to the Lordship in a prayerful mood that, my dear Lord, after his regrets, he is saying, kindly bless me so that I may associate with great devotees who engage in your transcendental loving service constantly, as the waves of a river constantly flow. So again, he is saying that he wants to engage in the loving service of transcendental devotees, transcendentalists. And this is something very important, because now Dhruva Mahārāja is realizing the benediction was actually coming of Devashi Narad in his life, because his spiritual journey started there. And there is a very common, means again Kabir Das ji beautiful sayings by him. Guru Govind dono khade kaake lagu paye, balihari Guru apnu Govindiyo milaye. That my spiritual master and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Govind, both are in front of me. Whose feet should I touch first? Who should I pay obeisances to. Then he says, Balihari Guru Apne. My all glories to my spiritual master, that because of your mercy, so again he's paying obeisances first to his Guru, that I am able to see Govinda, Govindiya Milai. So again, that is the mood Dhruva Mahārāja is having, that I want to engage in the transcendental loving service constantly and serve your devotees who are constantly in love with you. And how they are loving you? They are loving constantly, just like the river flows into the ocean. So river is incessantly flowing into the ocean. It's never that the river stops. It continues to flow. And that's the nature of water. It flows downwards, right? So it goes, and the rivers, they flow into the ocean. So that is where such transcendental devotees, they are completely situated in an uncontaminated state of life, because their only purpose is to satisfy the Lord, to serve the Lord. Jivera Surupaya Krishnera Nityadas. So they are situated in a constitutional position, their Surup, as an eternal servant of Lord Shri Krishna. So in the beginning, when people, they are not in this consciousness, generally they want to enjoy sense gratification, they go to the temple. The glory is that they go to the temple. They don't take to the bad habits that others may be using, like cheating and cunning ways. And they come to the temple and they say, my dear Lord, please provide me so, please provide me beautiful wife, give me beautiful kids, give me, promotion at work, give me a house, different kind of things. So this is authority, right? Just like Dhruva Mahārāja. They are asking for benedictions for themselves. But in reality, what is happening? That they are thinking that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna, is order supplier, right? While it is we who are eternal servants. So we should not be asking the master to serve us, we should be serving the master. And that's why this even mindset is considered lower when we ask something of the Lordship. When Dhruva Mahārāja is realizing that actually I am asking for a kingdom greater than my great-grandfather, which I am asking the Supreme Master. Rather, I should be serving him lovingly. Now here with this, he instructs us, Dhruva Mahārāja, he is instructing us by his example, by these feelings when he is expressing to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that this love is where we have the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the center, and we dovetail everything to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Rishikesha, Lord Krishna. Rishikesha means master of the senses. So all our senses should be engaged in serving the master of the senses, and then only our senses can be satisfied. Because if we put ourselves, which is lust, in the center, that's like pouring ghee, clarified butter in fire. And the fire never dies out when you put ghee. Actually, it goes stronger. So our senses will never be satisfied. So that is lust. And another lesson that we learn is that in love, loving relationship is based on giving, not having a trade exchange, as Prahlad Maharaj teaches with his example as well. So in loving relationships, we are interested only in giving, not of expecting anything in return. While the lusty relationships, where we are either looking at trade exchange, I'll get this, only then I'll give that, right? So it is more focused on taking. So that is the difference between, what's the difference between loving relationship and lusty relationship? Loving relationship is on giving, in serving, in caring, while lusty relationship is in taking, in expecting, and doing an exchange. So these are very important things that we learn in our life to understand. That's why they say a friend in need is friend indeed, right? Because when it comes to the relationships, selfish relationships, people break those relationships as soon as you have lost what they are seeking, right? So now Dhruva Mahārāja, he is saying that by the process of devotional service, I shall surely be able to cross the nascent ocean of material existence, which is filled with the waves of blazing fire-like dangers. Padam padam yatu vipadam natesham, as we discussed, that there is danger in every step. And he is further saying, it will be very easy for me, for I am becoming mad to hear about your transcendental qualities and pastimes, who are eternally existent. Now here, he is saying that he is becoming mad. This is because of the purification, the causeless mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So here he is saying that I'm becoming mad. So in this world, you will find two kind of mad people, right? Those who are materially mad, so they have lost all their intelligence, and so they are caught in this cycle of birth and death. And then the second kind is those who are mad in devotional service to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So they give everything to serve the Lordship. And the ones who have some consciousness, like the middle range, they are thinking, what is going to be our destination? So it's better for this innocent public to take to devotional service, as Prahlad Maharaj also instructs. Now, Dhruva Maharaj, by his prayers, we have covered some of the important sections. Again, Anurupa Devi in her lectures have covered various elements of prayers. So here Dhruva Maharaj has already covered repentance. He has covered, the true benediction is Vaishnava Seva. So again, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he reveals Yug Dharma is actually threefold. Vaishnava Seva, Namaruchi, Jivodaya. So we should serve the advanced devotees. We should be friendly and conversing with devotees who are at the same level as us about Krishna Katha, name, form, activities, pastimes. And then we should be compassionate towards the ones who are junior to us, who are not as elevated. So again, Jivodaya. So Dhruva Maharaj, he is saying, my dear Lord, you are the same Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. At the time of annihilation, everything merges back into your stomach, and then the lotus sprouts from your navel on which Lord Brahma is formed. And he appears. And then he is saying that you are full of 6 opulences. And what are these 6 opulences? Aishvaryasya samagrasya viryasya yashashriya jnana vairagayascha sannam bhagaiti gana. Aishvaryasya, the one who is, again, this is the definition of Bhagwan given by Parashar Muni. That one, who is Bhagwan? Bhagwan who is full in all 6 opulences. Aishvaryasya, fortune, he is unlimited wealth. Samagrasya viryasya, so again, he is the strongest. Yasha, he is the most famous. Shriya, again, he is the most beautiful. Jnana, he is the most intelligent. And Vairagya, renunciation, he is the most renowned. So a person who has all these 6 qualities in full is called Bhagwan. And in Bhagavad Gita, we always hear Bhagwan Uvacha. So again, when Vyasadeva is writing Mahabharata, of course, the one scribed by Ganesh, Lord Ganesh, but spoken by, Srila Vyasadeva. And so in Bhagavad Gita, everywhere, whenever Lord Krishna is speaking, saying Shri Bhagwan Uvacha. So again, this is where he is recognized as Bhagwan. And then Dhruva Maharaj is saying, you are the master of external energy, Maya. You are existent in the super soul without change. You are the original personality of Godhead. So when it comes to the perspective, like sometimes people ask, what's the difference between Supreme Personality of Godhead and the original Supreme Personality of Godhead? So the difference is that Lord Krishna is Avatari, while all of the Vishnu forms, all his expansions as Nrsimhadev, Varahadev, Vamandev, Matsya Avatar, Kurma Avatar, the good avatars, the Purush avatars, all these are actually avatars, incarnations, and the incarnation of who's the original personality is Lord Shri Krishna. And so here he is glorifying, but then Dhruva Maharaj is saying the ignorant devotee is like me, right? And you are the causelessly merciful maintainer. So he is saying that you, and Lord Vishnu also reveals, Lord Krishna also reveals that when somebody goes to a demigods, then the person is looking for an exchange, right? They're saying, I'll serve you this, I scratch your back, you scratch my back. So that's like a trade exchange. That's not love. That's like lusty desire, putting one's own interest in the center. One is serving a demigod, worshipping a demigod, expecting returns. Protection and other kind of favors from the demigod. While devotees, they are completely surrendered, anya bhilashita shunyam, except they are understanding that Lord is our maintainer, he is our protector. So that's Sharanagati. So here, Dhruva Maharaj is saying that just like a cow takes care of a newly born calf by supplying milk, by giving it protection from attack, you causelessly, being a merciful maintainer, and maintenance is done by, Shirodakshaya Vishnu, the super soul in this material world. So he is protecting all the living entities, not just us. And so he is saying that you give us protection. And there is one amazing thing. It is said in Srimad Bhagavatam, right? That whatever desires one has, even if one has no desire for sense enjoyment, but to, just akamas, sarva kamuma moksha kamodadhi tivrena bhakti yogena yajate purusham param. If one has no desire for sense enjoyment, but to serve the Lord and please the Lord, or sarva kamo, if one has all kind of lusty desires, all kind of desires to enjoy in this material world, and moksha kama, and if someone has desire to get out of the cycle of birth and death and attain moksha, liberation, Tivrena Bhakti Yogena, such a person should, with great enthusiasm, which could be in all three categories, and this categories covers everyone, right? So here, everyone should be engaged in with great enthusiasm, with great determination, with great dhruva, fixed attitude in devotional service. Yajyate Purusham Param. Whose devotional service? Of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And of the Supreme Personalities of Godhead, again, when we refer to Vishnu Tattvas, we still call them singular, even though there are many, because in reality, they are all considered one, because they are expansions of Lord Krishna. So we are referring to Lord Krishna. And here Lord Vishnu, he reveals that when somebody goes to demigods, it's like you scratch my back, I scratch your back. So there is a trade exchange, a lusty desire that people are trying to fulfill. But when somebody comes to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then Lord knows that they may be having lusty desires. He fulfills those desires, but also he purifies so that no fall down happens. So such desires are vanquished, automatically satisfied. So Lord is saying this is his causeless mercy. Just like by touching the conch at the forehead of Dhruva Mahārāja realized that asking for a kingdom greater than his great-grandfather is actually a much lower mindset. It's a lower attitude. Rather, greater is to serve the Lordship. And Lord is so merciful that he takes away those desires. So again, when people go to Vrindavan, there is a similar incident, and they enter into Yamuna. Many times, Dinbandhu Prabhu in Vrindavan, he takes people on parikrama. So as soon as somebody is entering Shyam-kund, Radha-kund, or Yamuna river, he says that, when you take bath in Ganges, Ganga river, then all your sinful reactions are washed away. All the impious activities, sinful actions you have done. So their reactions to those things, right? So again, they are washed away. But when you step in Yamuna, when you step in, Shyam-kund or Radha-kund, all your pious acts as well as impious acts, both of their reactions are washed away. So sometimes people step out thinking that, we want to enjoy, right? So our pious acts, their reactions are washed away, then we will not be able to enjoy. In reality, these two accounts have to be zero, and our akarma account, the devotional account, should be at the topmost. Means that we should be focusing by serving the Lordship. And it's very easy to collect wealth in this third account, akarma. So only then we can go back home, back to God. The other two accounts are zero. So taking bath in Yamuna, taking bath in Shyam-kund, taking bath in Radha-kund, it is highly regarded, it is very fortunate state, because it is enabling us to return back home, back to Godhead, get out of this cycle of birth and death. So here, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he understands Dhruva Mahārāja's intention, and Dhruva Mahārāja is teaching us such wonderful lessons. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he responds by saying, "My dear Dhruv, I shall award you the glowing planet known as the pole star," so the North Star that we talk about, right? Which will continue to exist even after the dissolution at the end of millennium. So every time Lord Brahma, again, Chaturyugas, at the end of Chaturyugas, there is a recycling process that happens, right? I'm using simple term. But basically at the end of Kali Yuga, Satyuga again starts. But before that Satyuga starts, it's not the same transition as other yugas. So there is a minimum small level of annihilation that happens And that happens only on the earthly planets, because the four yugas influence is observed on the earthly planets. And then at the end of day Brahma, when he goes to sleep, his night is as long. So during that time, Lord Shiva, he also annihilates all this universe, many of the planets, except for Brahmalok, right? And so they are merged back, and then they again, Lord Brahma wakes up and he starts creating again on a new day. So that also happened. And then at the end of Lord Brahma, the whole universe is annihilated, and everything, the whole universe merges back into Mahavishnu. So that's also there. So three different levels of annihilations. And again, there is a fourth category. But focusing on this, Lord is saying that the pole star, the North Star, also referred to as, that is what he will, award to Dhruva Mahārāja. And this pole star is not annihilated when all the planets are annihilated. Why? Because this is where the Kshir Sagar is. This is where Lord is resting on Sheshnaga. Shirodakshaya Vishnu is resting on Sheshnag. So that's why this planet is not. And he's saying that no one is the ruler of this planet. So, which is basically surrounded by the solar system, planets and stars. And all the luminaries in the sky circumambulate this planet, keeping this planet on the right. So we have Dharma, Agni, Kashyap and Shukra. They circumambulate. Their planets, they circumambulate this planet, this star, pole star or North Star. Now sometimes people are there wondering as how everything is circumambulating. Now this is some general science as we understand. North Star, why is it called North Star? Because our Earth is not, when it's rotating around the sun, revolving around the sun, rotating on its axis is not 90 degrees to the sun, rather it is 8 degrees shifted. Now because of 8 degrees shifted, when you create this axis up, and it's North Pole, if you continue to grow through this axis, North Star is at this North Pole. Now just like, because it's on the north, the axis is where, on the north axis, that's where the pole star is. At night, no matter where we are, the distance, the direction, the angle that we'll see the North Star will always be the same in the sky. So we can think a location on the planet at a specific location, when it rotates, it's rotating on this axis. So it's like a circle, right? Because the distance from the North Pole doesn't decrease when the Earth is rotating on its axis. So it's like having a cone kind of figure. And so the North Star is situated in the same spot in the sky. That's why people who are navigating in the sea, they use the North Star for the direction. They know that this is the direction north, so that they can find out all other directions and how they're going to be navigating at night. So North Star is situated at one spot while all of the stars are rotating around North Star. And even the rotation is given, which actually tells us the Earth rotates this way because the stars rotate in the opposite manner. So there's a lot of science when we understand it properly, right? And North Star is situated in one spot in the sky from any of the spots, any of the places. So on the North Pole, if someone is living, then the North Star is right above them. As you move away from North Pole, the North Star starts to appear, at angles. So, and the further you go to the, any other equator, you can't even see North Star because it's in the north. And in the southern hemisphere, you cannot see North Star. In the southern hemisphere, you see South Star. Now that is another class. But here, just understand that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is saying, so for us to view, we see that all other stars, all the planets are circumambulating Dhruva planet from our vision on Earth. So this is where he is revealing. And Dhruva Mahārāja, and at that time, Lord had disappeared. And Dhruva Mahārāja is actually now dissatisfied because, why? Because he understood that he had a lusty desire, he had a material desire. While devotees, and now he has love of Godhead, right? He was able to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is completely purified. He has love manifested. He is becoming mad in love. And so he is feeling sad at heart that he had such a bad, desire. He is such a low wish, and that's why devotees, they always want to give, they want to serve the Lordship. They never want to ask anything from the Lordship. And there's a beautiful story from Srila Sanatana Goswami and Srila Rupa Goswami. Once it just so happened that Srila Sanatana Goswami was meditating in hot afternoon, and a lady came and she put her, sari pallu to give him shade. And later on, Rupa Goswami, he was telling Sanatana Goswami, his elder brother, that you took service from Radharani. It was Radharani who was giving you shade. We are supposed to serve the Lordship. We are not supposed to expect any service from them. So here we also hear from the Acharyas, we learn from the Acharyas that we should never desire anything for ourselves. We should always be desiring to serve the Lordship in the way, to please them, to satisfy them. So from that perspective, when we are engaged in devotional service, it's very important for us to continue to go in the right direction of serving instead of expecting anything. So here, when Maitreya Muni is describing, of course, Vidur, Mahatma Vidur, he is the one who is listening. And he asked that why was he not satisfied? Why was he feeling so bad? Mahatma Vidur is asking. So at that time, Maitreya Muni says that, that Dhruva Mahārāja, he had good intentions, in his heart when he finished his prayers, but he was not satisfied because he was feeling that he was asking for something very low. And he was also aggrieved, right? He was also feeling that his stepmother, she used harsh words against him. So he was feeling that she should not have, he was feeling, like a feeling of animosity towards his stepmother. And he was thinking Uttam as his enemy. And this is like he could not be, forget the misbehavior. And the Supreme Personality of Godhead, another thing that when the Lord, he says, even though it is like tit for tat, right? What goes around comes around. Even though it looks like that, but Dhruva Mahārāja, he didn't desire that. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Chakravarti Path, he reveals that Dhruva Mahārāja was, even feeling bad that he had such feelings towards his stepmother and towards his half brother, son of Uttanpada, same father, but different mothers. So when Lord revealed that one, Uttam, he will go to the forest, and when he will be busy in the forest, hunting, he will be killed. So hearing that, Dhruva Mahārāja did not like it, right? And on top of that, Lord revealed to him that in his search, in the search of Uttam, Suruchi will enter the forest and she will burn in the forest fire. So in the same fire she gave to Dhruva Mahārāja with a harsh words, in that similarly she will burn in that fire. Just like Dhruva Mahārāja, he was as if bitten by a snake. He was burning after he heard those harsh words from his stepmother. So what goes around comes around. A very important lesson for us to learn. That is a fact. Sooner or later, if we think of something inauspicious for us, it happens tenfold in our lives. If you become envious of others, that also only affects us. So we should try to avoid all kind of anarthas. And when Suruchi was chastising Dhruva Mahārāja, he was not identified as a devotee. He was just a 5-year-old boy, son of King Uttanpada. He didn't show any symptom of being a devotee. He was a Kshatriya. Yes, he had the Kshatriya potency, but he was still a boy. And that was Janaprad. What she committed was Janaprad. For that, she is going to lose her life. Her son, felt like, I'm able to sit in my father's lap, and my mother is protecting me. He became the cause of her death, right? Because she was always seeking to protect her son, Uttam, trying to give him the best what is there. His name is Uttam because from her eyes he was the rightful heir of the throne. And so she chastised Dhruva Mahārāja. So even Janaprad should not be performed. We should be very, very careful. And so Maitreya Muni reveals these facts that Dhruva Mahārāja, he was feeling sorry that he asked for material benediction. That Dhruva planet, the pole star, would not be annihilated, which is even Brahmalok is annihilated at the time of annihilation, which is destroyed, but Dhruva the pole star is not destroyed, because in this material world, that is where Lord himself is residing, Shirodakshai Vishnu in Shesh Sagar on Sheshnag. So he will become the ruler, but not just immediately he'll become the ruler. He will enjoy, he will be the ruler of this planet Earth, the whole Bharatvash. Bharat doesn't mean India, right? We have to understand this also. Coming from scriptures, Bharat means the whole planet Earth. So that was the name of this planet, coming from Bharat, who was son of uh, Dushyanta or Dushmanta, sometimes also referred to as. There is another Bharat, son of uh, Rishabdev, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because he was also the ruler of the world. So that's also why Bharat is also called. Previously, it was also known as Ilavrata. So all these descriptions are given in 9th canto, as we have already covered in the past, and we'll be covering again. So here we see that Dhruva Mahārāja, he was feeling very unfortunate. He was saying, alas, just look at me, I'm so unfortunate. I approached the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who can immediately cut the chain of the repetition of birth and death. And still, out of my foolishness, I prayed for things which are perishable. So these material things that we see around us, they are perishable things. And so he understood that he could not accept the genuine benediction of the instruction of Sage Narad, his spiritual master. And he reveals to us that even the demigods, right, they are in the higher planetary systems, and they are the ones, they influence our different senses, their various abilities that we have. So 33 crore Devi Devta, 330 millions of the demigods that are there, they control us. So we are like puppets at times. This material body is coming to us from material energy, and the different demigods who are controlling various senses, various parts of this body. And we as living entity are the passenger in this body, and our desires are fulfilled by the senses, through mind intelligence. And false ego is causing us to think that I am this body, but in reality we are not this body. We are this living entity, the sitting in the heart along with the super soul. So Atma, Paramatma, right? And so we should be understanding that our true nature is to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Jivera Surupoya Krishna Nityadas. So he was lamenting that this illusory energy was, causing me to look after, to seek sense gratification. So I've been cheated. I was sleeping on her lap. And because I have this vision of duality, so only in this material world we have the vision of duality, relativity. We think happiness, distress, joy and sorrow, hot and cold, all these factors are in this material world, because on the absolute platform, we don't think of ourselves, but rather we think of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is a very important thing to understand, because sometimes people think humility means become a doormat, right? You don't think low of yourself in a humble state. You think less of yourself in a humble state. You think more of pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead and serve his devotees and being compassionate to other living entities, Samadarshina. So that is important. And so in this material world, when people are thinking this one is my friend and that one is my enemy, a devotee always thinks that everyone is living entity, everyone is a devotee of the Lord. Some know it, some don't, because Lord, he resides in everyone's heart as super soul. That is a sign that everyone is loved by the God, right? The Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in this way he was lamenting, and this lamentation is sometimes very good if it helps us progress further in improving ourselves. Sometimes people use it to, put themselves in a sorry state of mind to attract pity from others. That is a negative way of lamentation. So again, here we see that after Dhruva Mahārāja, he is able to achieve the benediction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He, vanished from his vision. So again, Lord is perfect in renunciation. So he leaves Dhruva Mahārāja, and that time Dhruva Mahārāja starts back for home. And King Uttanpad, he heard that Dhruva Mahārāja is coming home. So he could not believe this message, but he was, he took shelter of the instructions coming from Devashi Narad. So he had full faith in the words of Devashi Narad. So he immediately became overwhelmed when he heard the news, and the messenger who gave him this news, he immediately gave necklace. So again, he was still in the material consciousness, King Uttanpad, because he was thinking that his son is coming back home. He was associating Dhruva Maharaj with his physical body. And so this bodily relationship. And sometimes when this happens, the behavior is shown because he's, sometimes kings would, as soon as somebody gives a great news that your son is safe or your son is born, they would pick up whatever necklace they are wearing, they would give to the messenger. So this is to express joy. And if somebody brings a bad news, then they will get their head chopped off. Why did you give me the bad news? So sometimes the messengers were very afraid, how are you going to tell the king? Unless someone was very close, like Sanjay was very close to Dhritarashtra. So he was able to say to Dhritarashtra that all your sons, they are going to be annihilated in this. And Arjuna is going to appear victorious because he has Lord Krishna on his side. And wherever there is Lord Krishna, of course, Goddess of Fortune resides there. So it takes a lot of, a great connection with the king to be able to give them bad message. But friend of the king is a friend, true friend is one who can help us realize our faults so that we can overcome them, overcome the impediments in our life. So here, King Uttanpad, he was already feeling very wretched because he had not picked up, he had not defended Dhruva Maharaj. He did not make him sit on his lap and patted him just like he was doing to. So immediately, he was doing to Uttam. So immediately he got onto the chariot, took along with him not just alone. So when a king goes, he takes his associates, his relatives, and many other personalities with him. So he called the Brahmanas to chant the Vedic mantras. He had a whole band of, conches were blowing, mridangas were playing, a big procession was going. He was taking all his elderly relatives with him, right? Uncles, aunts, and everyone. He was taking his two queens with him to see Dhruva Maharaj. Uttam was accompanying them. His ministers were accompanying him. So when a king goes, he doesn't go alone. Why? Because it's a king's possession. So similarly, when Lord Krishna, he appears in this material world, he comes to this material world, he doesn't come alone. He comes with all his associates, all his paraphernalia, all his weapons and everyone. So similarly, when Lord Krishna appears, all the Vishnu Tattvas, they appear along with him. So again, we have to understand with the right perspective. So that's also revealed in this particular chapter. And when he saw Dhruva Maharaj coming out from a small forest going towards another forest, trying to return back, he immediately got off his chariot, he jumped out, he ran and he picked up Dhruva Maharaj. He was smelling his hair. So this is how fathers, they embrace their sons and daughters, and then they smell the hair, they kiss the faces, and they see that if the child is good, well or not, how they are doing physically and mentally. So similarly, he was, overwhelmed by seeing his son. And both the queens, Suruchi and Suniti, when they were there, as soon as Dhruva Maharaj saw them, he paid obeisances. So when seeing his father also, he paid obeisances, Danvat Pranam, and then he paid obeisances to his mothers. And Suruchi also, embraced him and said, Chiranjeevi Bhava, may you have a long life. And so they were in palanquin when they came. And so Dhruva Maharaj, he also met his brother Uttam. And both the brothers, they exchanged their tears. They were overwhelmed by the ecstasy of love and affection. When Suniti, the real mother of Dhruva Maharaj, when she embraced Dhruva Maharaj, her tears flew. So again, all these tears that are flowing in this particular pastime, in this particular incident, they are cold tears. Now, Srila Prabhupada in the purport reveals that when someone is happy and they are crying, in happiness, then the tears are cold, they are calm. When someone is crying because of some anxiety, some grief, some unhappy situation, then the tears are hot. So that's the difference. Even in the way somebody can cry, but the temperature, the feeling of those tears is different. Cold means happiness, satisfaction, rejoicing, good fortunate events are happening. And when there are hot tears, that's when one is in anxiety, one is in danger, one is feeling sorrow, and negative feelings are arising. So here, she, with her milk flowing from her breast and her tears, she wet the whole body of Dhruva Maharaj, which is a very auspicious sign. And so the residents, they praise the queen, right? That your son has returned as if he has returned back from death. And now he'll be able to protect you for a very, very long time and take care of, put an end to all the material pangs, because he has seen the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He has received the benediction from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And she, Suniti, was his first guru, Dhruva Mahārāja's. So Mother is the first guru of every living entity. So they have great responsibility. They actually own the responsibility of making their children Krishna conscious more than the fathers, because they are the first guru. So by their example, and in India we see that mothers, they are very much oriented not just to take to devotional service, but to make their sons and daughters devotees as well, which is a great benediction, for the sons and daughters, because that is the purpose of life. Atato Brahma Jigyasa. So here, Sage Maitreya, he is glorifying this too. Dhruva Maharaj pastime, that everyone was praising Dhruva Maharaj. The king was happy. And so Dhruva Maharaj and Uttam, they were seated on a she-elephant. They returned to the capital. The whole city was decorated as if great festival is happening, right? This is like a relative who has literally come back from death, right? And so everyone is rejoicing. And there are, lamps are burning at every gate. Every gate is decorated. There are, mango leaves. They have been scattered. The flowers and grain have been scattered around the, roadways and so forth. The whole city, it was decorated. The domes of the city palaces, they glittered, right? And even the domes of beautiful airplanes that hovered over the city. So again, they had technology back then, that they had hovercrafts, right? We know the technology, but we haven't been able to do much with the technology. But back in those times, even Dhruva Maharaj times, they had, domes, the hovering crafts, airplanes, and they also had domes, big palace-like arrangements. And so when they all passed through these roads, everyone was feeling very festive, and the mood was very nice. And so Dhruva Maharaj, he lived with his father and at the palace, and the palace was beautifully decorated. So the description is given that everything was very nicely, means again, the bedding in the palace was as white as a foam of milk, and it was very soft. The bedstead were made of ivory with embellishments of gold, and the chairs, benches, and other sitting places and furniture, they were made of gold. And the palace of the king was surrounded by walls made of marble with many engraving made of valuable jewels like sapphires, which depicted beautiful women with shining jewel lamps in their hands. And the residence was surrounded by gardens. So again, very beautiful arrangement, wherein there were varieties of trees brought from the heavenly planets like Parijata and other flower trees. Even from heavenly planets, there were many trees. And those trees there live pairs of sweetly singing birds and almost mad bumblebees, right? So there must be honeycombs there. And there were emerald staircases which led to lakes full of variously colored lotus flowers and lilies and swans, Karnadhavas, Chakravakas, cranes, and similar other valuable birds were visible in those lakes. Such beautiful is an arrangement. And so the saintly king, after he heard the glorious deeds of Dhruva Maharaj and how he personally saw. So again, sometimes we hear and then we glorify a person, but that is only partial. Seeing is believing, right? So he was able to see how Dhruva Maharaj has become so exalted devotee, and how influential and great he was, how Dhruva Maharaj was compassionate towards all living entities. He felt great satisfaction that Dhruva Maharaj is the rightful heir. Again, for an administrator, he has to be neutral, loving, and powerful. So compassion is a very important aspect towards all devotees with an equal vision, right? So he was able to see. So after much concentration, much contemplation, much deliberation on this particular, who should be the rightful heir of the throne, King Uttanpad, he made sure that Dhruva Maharaj was suitably mature to take charge of the kingdom, and that his ministers were agreeable, and the citizens were also very proud of him. Then he enthroned Dhruva as the emperor of this planet, not of a small place called India currently, of this planet which is known as Bharat. So Bharat refers to the planet Earth, all the regions, the 7 Dvipas. And considering the advanced age and deliberating on the welfare of his spiritual self, King Uttanpad, he detached himself from worldly affairs and entered the forest. So King Uttanpad at that time, after enthroning the whole Dhruva Mahārāja, the whole kingdom to Dhruva Mahārāja, he retired for a forest life to take to devotional service. And of course, this is Satyuga. So Kriteta the Dhyate Vishnu. One can attain perfection by austerities, by performing austerities, by meditating on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But we are not living in Satyuga. Rather, we are living in Kali Yuga, where there is great benediction, as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says. Then we can attain the same, glories, which would take tens of thousands of years in Satyuga, very easily in this lifetime by taking to the chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This is where the chapter ends. So again, why we have to take such a long path when we learn? So again, intelligence is that we learn from the acharyas, we learn from the examples of the life of Dhruva Mahārāja, by his own examples, by his own teachings. And acharya means one he shows us, teaches us by his example. So Dhruva Mahārāja, by his example, is teaching us that we should not have desire for material benedictions. Rather, we should seek the supreme benediction, which is Jivera Surupoya Krishna Nityadas, that we are eternal servant of the Lord, and Lord is so merciful. That's why his mercy is called causeless mercy. So by taking shelter, we get the causeless mercy of the Lord. And why to try to become God when we can become godly? And God, cleanliness is next to godliness. And Srila Prabhupada said, why do you want to become God when you can become greater than God? So by taking to devotional service, Yashoda Mai, right, a devotee of the Lord, could bind him with the ropes of her love. So we can, in the same way, win over the Lord, and he is simply won over by the chanting of the holy name, when we do it attentively, without any offenses, aparadh, without, engaging any of the anarthas, unwanted things, meaningless things, and avidya, without having the ignorance. And simple way to avoid all the ignorance is by understanding the essence of Vedas, which is the essence of Vedas is Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna. So this is where this chapter ends, and here we learn some amazing lessons as we discussed, and we'll continue to progress further on Dhruva Mahārāja's pastimes. See that even in that stage, sometimes one can get attached on the material platform and can cause havoc to others. But if one has protection and shelter of Vaishnavas, Acharyas, the senior exalted transcendental devotees, then one can still be saved. Hare Krishna. Gantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Bhagavad Pad ki jai, Anant Kori Vaishnava Vind ki jai, Nitaya Go Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Om Tat Sat.